Hey, this is Stu with the Military Investor Network, and I am here today with Marissa Limsiaco. She is down in Austin, Texas, and a West Point grad. I'm a Navy guy, so we have a little bit of a rival here, but we're talking business today, so it's all good. Welcome, Marissa. Thanks for talking with me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Stu. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Marissa, you started Tenabox, right? Tenabox.com. So it's kind of in the commercial real estate space, kind of a tech startup, if you will. So tell me about it, kind of how you started it, why you started it, and kind of the background behind the company.
Sure. Yeah. So Tenabox is in the commercial real estate leasing space. So our whole mission is to empower small businesses, empower tenants to make the best lease decisions for their businesses. So you can think of us kind of like a Glassdoor, Zillow for commercial real estate. Tenants can come to our site, see ratings, reviews, and recommendations on building, ultimately finding out what it's really like to be in a building and getting connected efficiently with spaces and resources that have to do with their lease decisions.
Okay. And so what's the why behind it? Like what made you, why did you start this? What did you see?
Sure.
What was the need, I guess?
Yeah, so I was working at the VA when my business partner Josh Feinberg approached me with this, and a little bit of background on myself. After I graduated from West Point, obviously served active duty, got my MBA, and started two technology companies. So I had some background in the space. One of the companies was in commercial real estate. So for those of y'all out there that don't understand or aren't familiar with the space, commercial is very different from residential in ways that they don't have an MLS and there's no centralized source of data. The culture is very much so brokers and owners hold information in, and from a tenant's perspective, it can be very frustrating. Well, I had to go into the VA and worked for a good 2 years. And my co-founder, Josh Feinberg, who's had over 10 years experience, pretty much wearing every hat in the industry, is very successful career from every point of representation to he's in over 31 partnerships. One of Josh's old customers or clients from his earlier days had reached out to him, and we like to say it's our French baker story. She's a French baker. And what had pretty much happened to her was that she got new ownership in her building and they changed it to triple net rates. And what that means basically is that she's responsible for the expenses for the property taxes, which means her rent went up and she could no longer afford it. So what she did was, she was looking for other space, and if you can imagine, was pretty distraught because as a French baker, you've got all of these different machines and your space has to be catered pretty specifically to, be able to run your business. She went to Josh and just distraught and was just basically like, why is it for every consumer decision out there, I can get reviews, I can get feedback, I know what I'm getting, I feel like I'm making an educated decision. Yet when I'm finding a space for my business, I don't necessarily know what I'm getting myself into until I'm already there and it's too late and I'm stuck in this lease. I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. And so that's really where the story that kind of drove Josh's vision. And we did some market studies and focus groups. I myself have talked to hundreds of business owners, and it, obviously convinced me to quit my steady job and jump into the startup space again, to try to find a solution for these folks.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. So a customer of Tenabox, you kind of have two sides, right? You kind of have the owner side of the commercial space, but then also the tenant side of the commercial space. So kind of tell us how that all works.
Yeah, so what we decided to do is, it all really first starts with the tenants. We have to build that community. And so what we do is we offer them we want to be their free, trusted resource and platform to come. So you could come on our site. We have guides, we have ebooks, all of these resources that help you understand before you even start searching. And then, of course, we have the search factor. And you could think of us kind of like a matching site. So you tell us what you need, the criteria for the building you want to fall in love with. And what we do with brokers and owners on the building representation side, they tell us what they're looking for, and we match you. And so you see a scoring to how well you're matching with buildings. You're able to do a market study on our site, actually compare buildings and learn about different markets, as well as directly, through the matching, directly connect to brokers. And what we realized is not only do tenants want to have help looking for space, but when they're already in their lease cycle, there's a lot of other resources that they need to connect with: attorneys, moving companies, all of that. And so what they can come is connect with all of those resources through us for free. On the other hand, our primary revenue stream is through brokers and owners. On the broker side, for those that don't understand the industry, the market sizes, they spend in the leasing portion of commercial real estate, over $6 billion is spent on marketing per year. And none of it is targeted. It's very antiquated traditional methods like throwing events, cold calling. An average leasing broker out of Houston anyway will spend over 100 touches per deal. And what we realized with Tenabox and the solution we're ultimately providing brokers for ownership and owners is direct qualified leads that don't exist in the industry. And so what they ultimately do is they pay us to kind of for premium buildings, like Glassdoor, kind of promoting and advertising their buildings with their own picture assets and all of that, so that it sticks out and essentially white labeled to recruit tenants to their building.
Okay, that's awesome. And so right now you are in how many different markets advertising commercial space?
We started in Houston in September with our MVP and expanded out to Austin, since this is where our company is headquartered. We realized, Houston and Austin were two to start with just because of the differences, and from an operational standpoint, understanding how we would kind of like take over those two cities. Austin's obviously a lot smaller, but at the end of the year, we did a lot of got a lot of feedback. We were getting in a couple months, we had over 1,500 signups.
Wow.
And through the end of the year, learned a lot from our users. And January was dedicated to really upgrading the site. So there's no longer a sign-in wall. You can just freely search and go through our site unless you want to put a review down or actually get matched. But we now have over 2,700 users between Houston and Austin, and we're growing 10% a week.
A week, wow!
Yeah,
that's awesome. And is there plans to go into other markets down the road?
Certainly. We want to first use the next 2 quarters to really stabilize in these 2 cities first. But we do plan to go to Dallas and San Antonio towards the end of this year and beginning next year, with the goal of first quarter next year taking over all of the big Texas metros.
Okay, awesome, cool. Okay, so me as a real estate investor, and let's say I have commercial space. I can go to you and work with you to put my office or warehouse or whatever it may be on the site and have you guys, Tenabox, help market my property to get a qualified and solid tenant in place. That's
correct. Yeah. So, I mean, we a lot of, and we're getting revenue now. We've partnered with a few big firms here. And what we always like to tell them is, they're usually like, we don't like to want to really list our buildings. We're not comfortable with listing. And we're like, well, we're not a listing site. We give you qualified leads.
Yeah.
Qualified lead generation. And so that's why you would come to us.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I think it's a great space to be in. There's nothing really like it out there. And I think it's the future of it is incredibly positive.
Thank you. Yeah. One thing I did want to add, Stu, actually, from the ownership perspective, what you're getting as an owner is also tenant experiential data that doesn't exist in the industry, so that you can make better decisions on your assets and learn how to retain tenants moving forward. Because we all know that as a building owner, turnover is probably what will keep you up at night.
Yeah.
So we provide that like huge value to business owners or building owners as well.
Okay. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit from kind of the investor standpoint. Now you're looking for investors to kind of help build and grow the company. Is that true?
So we are currently seeking additional funding to be able to rapidly grow and expand. And, the faster we build this product out, the faster people are going to come to the site. So it's all about just getting more funding to get us to where the vision is going to be. We were able to raise $765,000 last year, and we've currently opened another round to raise another $1 million. So right now, the round that we're open actually is $500,000. It's a convertible note at a $5 million cap and a 20% discount, and we're accepting at least $50,000 checks from those.
Okay, and that's accredited investors only. Is that correct, or are you non-accredited as well? Just accredited.
Yes, accredited.
Okay. All right. Well, awesome. Well, how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more, either just as an investor or an owner or just a tenant?
Yeah, absolutely. You could find me on LinkedIn, or you could email me directly. It's just Marissa with 2 S's, Marissa at Tenabox.com. And Tenabox is spelled Tenavox.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Marissa, for taking the time to talk about your new company. I'm excited about it, and I hope we can help get the word out and let this thing grow.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Stu.
Cool. Sure thing. Bye.
Bye.